Now it's time for another Board Game Brawl preview with Nick Minahan, sponsored by BoardGameBliss.com.
Hey folks, today we're going to take a look at a game that is currently seeking funding on Kickstarter. That game is called Andoria Battlefield and is from Rantic Games. Now, if you like what you see throughout the rest of this preview video, I'm going to encourage you to go to the official Kickstarter project page. You can do that by following the link in the top corner of your screen, as well as down in the description section underneath this video. Go to the page, find out more information than I could possibly tell you here, and hopefully consider backing the project. Now, Andoria Battlefields is a tactical strategy game. You and the other players take control of different warring factions in the world of Andoria. You actually have your own little personal battlefield area in front of you, and you'll be moving units on it, your hero units, in order to get to the opposite side of your battlefield, which is like the enemy row, the enemy zone. And that's very simply what you need to do to win, is get a couple of your heroes into that zone. But of course, it's not that simple, because at the same time, your opponents are going to be working against you while they're trying to do that on their own battlefield. They're going to be moving monsters against you, and you'll be moving monsters against them. I know that sounds a little bit weird, but it's actually pretty straightforward. So let me go ahead and give you a brief look at how the game is played with a prototype version of the game. So do bear in mind that what you see in this version may change in the final version. Just keep that in mind. Then we're going to come back and we'll discuss it further.
Andoria Battlefields is a competitive tactical battle game for 2 to 4 players. Each player fields an army of heroes in an attempt to either close the portals allowing monsters to pour into their kingdom, which you do by getting 2 of your hero units to the monster zone of your battlefield, or you can win by making use of the monsters to destroy the opposing kingdoms altogether, and being the last one left standing. You do this by moving 2 of your monster units to the hero zone of your opponent's battlefields. Give each player a battlefield mat laid out so that the blue outlined hero row is pointing towards you. The opposite red outlined row is for monsters invading your battlefield. There are 2 decks of cards. One deck consists of heroes, the other is monsters. All units have the same elements: a gold cost to summon them, a name and subtype, life point total, special ability, attack and defense, attack range, and movement range. Attack and defense ratings indicate how many dice you get to roll when attacking or when being attacked. Monsters are functionally the same, though of course their use in the game itself is different, slightly. All units of each type are shuffled into their separate decks together with spells. Spells can hinder your opponent or bolster your forces, and the monster and hero decks each have their own unique spells which all cost gold to cast, just like the units. After shuffling, each player gets dealt 5 cards from the hero deck. If you don't like your starting hand, you'll have 1 chance to discard as many cards as you like and redraw to 5 before starting the game. You'll also lay out the actual unit tokens for each of the factions so that you can grab them easier later. Make a stock of gold tokens, wound markers, and the 5 dice for the game, used for attacking and defending. Choose 1 player as a start player. They get 2 gold, and everyone else gets 4 gold. Then begin. Whoever is the current active player is known as the hero player. Every player's turn has 2 phases, hero and monster. In the hero phase, you go through 4 steps in order. First is the supply step. You get 2 more gold from the stock and draw 1 card from the hero deck. Next is the recruit step. You can play as many units and spells as you want from your hand, as long as you pay the cost in gold for each of them. Hero unit cards are placed near the battlefield, and the corresponding token is placed into your blue outlined hero row in any unoccupied space you want, though afterward it cannot be freely moved or removed. Spells take effect immediately and are discarded, even potentially affecting your opponent's battlefield. Spells can also be played any time during your hero phase, not just this one step. The next step is moving and attacking. You can move and attack with every hero you have in play in any order. Every hero unit has a movement rate, and they can only move forward space by space in a column. They can move through friendly units, but not enemy units, and they can move, attack, then continue moving if they have enough movement points left over. Heroes can attack enemy units if that unit is within the hero's attack range. Roll as many dice as the hero's attack value, while the monster player, which is always the player seated to the hero player's left in a multiplayer game, rolls the enemy's defense value. For attacking, every burst symbol is a hit and potentially does 1 or 2 damage, and nothing else matters on the dice. For defending, defense value is checked, and only shields count, and each one blocks 1 damage. If enough wound markers get through to meet or beat the enemy's life point total, that unit is destroyed and removed from the field. The attacker may get some gold as a reward, either 0, 1, or 2 gold pieces, based on whether the units cost 1, 2, or 3 gold to summon. After getting a chance to move and attack with all your units, the final step is discarding down to the hand limit of 6, if necessary. Now, the monsters have their turn, in the form of the player to your left, or the only other player in a 2-player game. This is very similar to the hero phase with some changes. In the supply step, the monster player draws 3 cards from the monster deck and shows them to the hero player. The monster player does not get any extra gold and must use whatever gold he has in his own stock to summon the units or cast the spells from among his hand. Monsters go into your opponent's battlefield in the red outlined row. Monster spells can also be played here, and unlike hero spells, can only be played in this particular step. Like heroes, monsters will move inexorably forward during the move and attack phase, this time from the red zone to your opponent's blue hero zone, attacking any hero that gets in the way. Once that's over with, the turn ends and the monster player immediately becomes the hero player for their turn. Play continues alternating like this between hero and monsters until one player gets 2 heroes into the enemy zone of his field. You can also win when you get 2 monsters into your opponent's hero zone, but in a multiplayer game, that only eliminates that player, and the game will continue until you're either the last person standing or the other condition is met. That is Andoria Battlefields.
Well, this is a very interesting game. Obviously, when you first look at it, you're like, okay, tactical game, map squares, you're moving units around, moving up to an enemy, and attacking. That's nothing new, right? But the fact is, it feels very different and unique. There's a whole thing here where like you're using the cards, you're summoning the units, but it's just this multifaceted thing where you're summoning your hero units who have tons of different units, lots of different special abilities, and spells, of course. There's unique spells for each of the different decks. But that's only one half of the story. Then you have to then you're having your opponent. You're having to defend your own battlefield from your opponent using monsters against you, using the same gold that they use to summon both types of units, and then you're going to do it to them as well when it's their turn as the active player. So you have this ebb and flow of like, I'm pushing forward, now I'm defending my, my territory against the pushback from my opponent, and then vice versa. And the fact that there's so many cards in the game, so many heroes, so many monsters, spells, unique to each group, and just like, and all of the monsters and heroes with high quality artwork as well on both the cards and the tokens. There's just like so much in the game. But even though it seems like an overwhelming amount of stuff, again, it's a very straightforward game. Whether you play it with 2 players or with 4 players, it's the same premise, just writ large. And the game doesn't overstay its welcome even with 3 or 4 players, because the whole aspect of monsters eliminating the players, it can really go from crowded to not so much pretty quickly if players aren't paying careful attention. But the whole aspect of having to win by getting your heroes to the enemy row, that's easier said than done. You have this onslaught of monsters, you have to rip through them. So it also feels like one of those line, almost tower defense games at the same time as it feels like a tactical war game. But again, straightforward, not overly complicated rules at all. I hope that came across in the overview. So I think that even casual gamers, after a little bit of time, could be like, yeah, okay, I've never played the game like this before, but you know, it's very intuitive. But players who are very experienced with this type of game are going to find themselves at home with the rules and also say, oh, this is different and unique from what I'm used to. And it's really infinitely customizable. You can add, in fact, it's not in this prototype copy that I have, but I've seen information about other factions that are going to be introduced. Lots and lots of different new heroes and monsters and spells, and you can just imagine there'd be tons of stuff that can be added to this game, expansion packs and things like that. And you don't have to take my word for any of that, because the great thing is, you know where this is going, there's a Kickstarter campaign going on right now where they will talk more about all of these different types of things. So if the game and the potential that it has appeals to you or someone that you know, if you like fantasy themes, if you like strategic tabletop games, or games that just have lots and lots of different units and monsters and things like that, and high quality artwork and production values, definitely go to the page and find out for yourself more information. There's going to be a link in the top corner of your screen, as well as down in the description section underneath this video. That is Andoria Battlefields from Rantic Games. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, for supporting our sponsors. Take care.
Thanks for watching. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. And make sure to check out our sponsor, Board Game Bliss, where you can find an amazing selection of games from around the world. BoardGameBliss.com. Thanks for your support.